NTD Washington correspondent Iris Tao, who is live in D.C. Iris, good morning. What can we expect today?
Good morning to both of you. So today is the big day. In just about 5 hours, we're going to see President-elect Trump formally swearing in as the 47th president of the United States. That's going to take place not on the Capitol steps like we used to see, but instead inside the Capitol Rotunda. He's going to be sworn in by Chief Justice John Roberts, and that's because of the extremely cold temperatures that's predicted here in Washington, D.C. Everything is pretty much moved indoors, including the parade, which will be incorporated with a viewing celebration at the Capital One Arena, also in downtown Washington, D.C. And this is likely going to be the coldest inauguration day since 1985, when President Ronald Reagan, swearing in for his second term, also moved his inauguration ceremony indoors inside the Capitol. And meanwhile, we just got some excerpts of President-elect Trump's inaugural speech to be given around noontime today. And he is expected to call for a revolution of common sense in his address, including, quote, a tide of change is sweeping the country. He's also going to say that his message to Americans is that it is time for us to, quote, once again act with courage, vigor, and the vitality of history's greatest civilization. And his advisor, Jason Milley, last night at his Capital One Arena victory rally, told NTD that he's expecting Trump's message to be focused on America's new golden age. Meanwhile, another major move that we're expecting to see today will be Trump really signing a series of executive orders in a fast and furious manner. So at a dinner last night with donors where Elon Musk as well as Jeff Bezos, the big tech executives, were also in attendance, and Trump told the audience that he's expected to sign nearly 100 executive orders just hours after swearing in. Here's what he said. Watch.
We're inheriting a nation faced with crises at home and abroad. My administration will take immediate and decisive action to confront every single problem America faces. And within hours of taking office, I will sign dozens of executive orders, close to 100 to be exact.
And Trump also previewed some of it at his victory rally last night, where he told us that instead of dragging it out for weeks, he's really pushing back and saying that he wants to get it all done in one day. Here's what he said at the rally. Watch.
Oh, you're going to have a lot of fun watching television. Somebody said yesterday, sir, don't sign so many in one day. Let's do it over a period of weeks. I said, like hell, we're going to do it over weeks. We're going to sign them at the beginning.
And his advisor also told NTD that some of the executive orders are expected to be focused on issues like energy, as well as the economy, as well as immigration, closing down the border, closing down illegal immigrations flowing into the U.S., as well as cutting the red tape in the federal government. And his advisor also told us that a lot of it will actually be quite similar to what Trump has always promised to do throughout his campaign trail, as well as 8 years ago when he first took office and during his first 4-year term, what he's been doing. A lot of the policies will look similar to what he's always vowed to do for the country. Meanwhile, as yesterday at the rally, he also mentioned that he will issue major pardons for January 6 defendants. And his advisors also said that it's very likely that Trump will not only sign his executive orders at the signing ceremony, but also actually moving on to the Capital One Arena, where he's going to join a more audience inside that big stadium, an arena, to actually celebrate that moment. He might actually sign more orders later as well. So a lot to watch for today as we, of course, wait for Trump to announce his day one major actions. Back to you.
Absolutely. And Iris, what do we know about the exact timeline today? When will we see President Biden and President-elect Trump together?
So that's a very interesting moment that we're going to see today, according to the White House daily guidance. Basically, Biden's, including President Biden and First Lady Jill Biden, will be riding with President-elect Trump and, of course, First Lady then Melania from the White House together to the Capitol. And that's basically a symbol of a peaceful transfer of power, which has been a tradition throughout decades. And meanwhile, for a more detailed look at what's going to happen today, this morning, the first thing that we're going to see will actually be President-elect Trump attending a service at St. John's Church right next to the White House, where we remember years ago when the rioters attempted to burn down the church during his first term. And later, President-elect Trump and First Lady Melania Trump will then be welcomed into the White House by President Joe Biden and the First Lady Jill Biden, and that's before they depart to the Capitol together for the swearing-in ceremony. And of course, we talked about how Chief Justice John Roberts will be administering the swearing-in ceremony for Trump. And then later, he's going to head inside the Capitol and, of course, to the president's rooms complex to sign his first executive orders. Of course, we're going to also see an inaugural lunch where he's going to talk with lawmakers. And he's also going to, of course, participate in that now indoors inaugural parade inside Capital One Arena. And later today, he's also going to attend more activities, including 3 inaugural balls where he will deliver an address at each of them. So a long day ahead, but definitely a lot to look for. Back to you.
Definitely. Thank you so much for giving us the overview. We'll be coming back to you much more throughout the day, so keep us updated. Thank you, Iris.
And what an iconic shot of Iris with the silhouette of the Capitol and the crimson skies just starting to welcome the day.
Totally. Like you said, golden hour.
It's incredible, and it's going to be a truly historic day. And just like we heard from Iris, days before the inauguration, freezing temperatures forced Trump's swearing-in ceremony indoors.
Now, the main event will be held in just a few hours in the Rotunda of the Capitol building instead of outside. For more about today's schedule, we're joined by Kevin Hogan live at the Inaugural Hub. Kevin, good morning. There you are. Can you give us an overview of what the incoming president will be doing today?
Yes, definitely. Trump has an action-packed schedule today, as we will be following Trump on Inauguration Day to put a map to what Iris was just saying. So this is a plan view that you're seeing of Washington, D.C. And right here is the U.S. Capitol building where the swearing-in ceremony will take place. President Trump will be visiting the White House to sign some executive orders as well, and they'll make a stop at St. John's Episcopal Church, which is just across Lafayette Square from the White House, to start the day, which is where we're going to take you right now. We're going to zoom in on that. This is a very important step. This is an 88-year tradition at St. John's Episcopal Church. That means that half of the last the presidents since 1933 have visited this church on Inauguration Day. There are a couple notable presidents, very famous ones, who started their Inauguration Day at this church, and that includes Franklin Delano Roosevelt. That was 3 out of his 4 inaugurations, and also Ronald Reagan. So following this very important start to their day, they're going to move over to the White House, which we'll see in just a moment, and that is when the incoming president will meet with the outgoing president for tea. So right here, that's where the Bidens will meet the Trumps right here at the north portico of the White House, and they're going to come into the White House. It's unclear exactly where they're going to have this tea, but this is a very important transfer of power ritual, and it's said to be one of the most enduring. It's possible that right here at the Green Room, which is typically reserved for small receptions and teas, that's where the Bidens and Trumps will have tea right here on Inauguration Day. Following that, as we mentioned, they will ride together to the U.S. Capitol for the swearing-in ceremony. Now, this is the first time, like we mentioned, since 1893 that a president will return to the White House for non-consecutive terms. Here we see, again, this is the Capitol complex. Normally, under normal conditions, when the parade's not moved indoors due to very cold weather, you would see this whole area in front of the Capitol, the West Front, being packed with people. You got VIP seating areas here. You got standing room all along here, and even all the way down through the National Mall to the Washington Monument at times could be packed with people. Capitol Police is expecting 250,000 people to show up today, and the president would normally give his speech after the swearing in right here at the steps of the Capitol. However, that will not happen today, as President Trump will take his oath of office right here inside the Capitol Rotunda, and that is where he will give his remarks, his inaugural address as well. And as we mentioned, Supreme Court Justice, Chief Justice John Roberts, will be administering that oath of office. Following this, there will be the departure ceremony, which will happen at the West Front of the Capitol. And we're going to switch this around just for you really quick so you can see this. At this time, the new vice president and his spouse will escort the outgoing vice president and her spouse across the steps here at the East Front, and same with the president and the outgoing president. So President Biden will depart the Capitol grounds by Marine One helicopter right here from this location, and they're going to go to the Joint Base Andrews, which we will pull up for a second, for you just 1 second. So that's, again, this is about a 10-mile distance right here by air from the Capitol complex to Joint Base Andrews. It's unclear exactly where President Biden will go after he departs Washington, but he probably will go to his home in Delaware. It's common for presidents to leave Washington on the inauguration of their successor here. So after that, we're going to go back to the Capitol Hill, and we're going to see the signing room ceremony. So this will be the first official acts of President Trump as president, in which he will probably sign some nominations, memorandums, proclamations, executive orders. I know he has a lot on his agenda there. And this will happen right here just off of the Senate chambers, which are on the north side of the Capitol. Then following that, he's going to move to just off the Rotunda to the Statuary Hall, and that's where the Congressional Luncheon will be held. And this is the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies putting this in action. It's a tradition since Dwight D. Eisenhower's time in 1953. So after that, the president will then walk out of the Capitol, off the steps here in the East Front, and he's going to review the troops, which could involve ceremonial brigades, for example, wearing colonial attire, possibly playing Yankee Doodle Dandy, as well as some more modern military regiments that the president will review. And then following that, he's going to go to Capital One Arena for this indoor parade that we've been talking about. It's unclear exactly how the parade will go on indoors. The inaugural committee is still figuring that out, but that's going to be at Capital One Arena, where Trump is going to visit his supporters and join in with them, and also to have his chance to celebrate with them as well. And Trump said that this Arctic blast that's coming into D.C., he wanted to make sure that no one gets hurt or injured in any way, and so he said that Capital One is going to be the host of his presidential parade. After that, the president will go to the White House for his Oval Office signing ceremony, and that's what you see right here. And again, this could be more executive orders that he could sign at this point, or nominations and so on. And then from there, that's when the party time begins. This will be going to the Walter E. Washington Convention Center, which you see right here. This will be for 2 of the 3 inaugural balls. The first one, the Commander-in-Chief Ball, will take place, and that's focused primarily on military service members. After all, the president is the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. President Trump is expected to deliver remarks there as well, and following that will be the Liberty Inaugural Ball at this same venue, which is mostly for Trump supporters. Again, more remarks there, and then after that, they're going to Washington, D.C.'s train station. Might sound a little strange for a ball, but it has a really great interior, great venue for an inaugural ball, and that's where the Starlight Ball is going to take place, and this is to recognize those high-dollar donors to President Trump's campaign. We'll also hear some remarks from the president at that time, too. So that's what's going to happen today on Trump's busy schedule. Back to you.
Thank you so much. Great rundown of the day as well, Kevin. Thank you.
And just like the Bidens and the Trumps sharing their tea this morning, we invite you
A peaceful transfer of power starts a new beginning with the next president.
And we'll be starting at 9 a.m. today. We'll bring you round-the-clock coverage of the second inauguration of Donald Trump. We'll have teams and key locations bringing you into every moment of the historic and peaceful transfer of power, the inaugural parade, and closing it up with the evening inaugural balls. We'll be with you throughout it all, so keep it right here on NTD News.
That's right. Big news breaking. Quickly switching gears here. After 471 days in captivity, 3 women held by Hamas terrorists are now free.
A long-awaited ceasefire now in effect, but the road to lasting peace still far from certain. Here's a look at the dramatic reunion of the released hostages and what comes next.
Jubilation and tears as 3 Israeli hostages were released from Gaza Sunday as part of the first phase of the ceasefire deal. The 3 released hostages are Rami Gonen, kidnapped from the Nova Music Festival, and Emily Damari and Doran Steinbrecher, who was kidnapped from Kibbutz Kfar Aza. The women were held in captivity for 471 days. They were taken to Sheba Medical Center, where they reunited with their families. Medical professionals said all three were in stable condition. Meanwhile, Israel said early Monday morning 90 Palestinian prisoners were freed as part of the hostage deal. Huge crowds greeted the white buses that carry the prisoners out of the Ofer prison in the West Bank. Video from CNN appears to show security forces launching tear gas canisters toward the crowd and the press as they waited for the prisoners' release. 30 more Israeli hostages and nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners are expected to be freed over the ceasefire's first phase. President Biden Sunday posted a rough timeline of these releases on X. He said 4 more women would be released this week, followed by 3 hostages every 7 days. The initial phase will last 6 weeks. During this time, the parties involved will negotiate a second phase during which all remaining hostages will potentially be released. This phase is expected to be far more difficult to negotiate. Phase 3 will potentially see Hamas and Israel release the remains of deceased hostages and prisoners, and the start of a 3 to 5 year reconstruction process. For months, the Biden administration had been working to bring all parties to the negotiating table. A senior administration official said there was unprecedented cooperation between President Biden's team and the incoming Trump administration during the final days of negotiation. A day before his inauguration, President-elect Trump said his election victory took the ceasefire deal over the line.
This week we achieved an epic ceasefire agreement as a first step toward lasting peace in the Middle East. And this agreement could only have happened as a result of our historic victory in November. That was some victory.
Senator Dave McCormick told Fox News Sunday Hamas needs to be eradicated for lasting peace.
We have to recognize the ceasefire won't be sustained unless all the hostages come home. And ultimately, Hamas is a terrorist organization. You can't live 600 feet away from people that want to slit your throat in the middle of the night. So Hamas has to be eradicated, and this ceasefire is hopefully the first step.
As the fighting in Gaza stopped Sunday, the United Nations said the first aid trucks from the World Food Program have started to cross into the territory. The organization says it's working to deliver 150 trucks daily using all available border crossings from Egypt, Jordan, and Israel. The World Health Organization said Sunday only half of Gaza's 36 hospitals remain partially operational. Israel has repeatedly stated that Hamas uses hospitals to harbor terrorists and weapons of war. A recent UN's Human Affairs Office report says 92% of all housing units in Gaza are destroyed or damaged. The report goes on to say Gaza's solid waste system has collapsed, bringing serious environmental and health risks. The World Health Organization called on all parties to hold their end of the bargain and continue to work towards a political solution to end the crisis.
Coming up, for the first time in U.S. history, a president-elect will welcome foreign leaders for the inauguration. Which leaders are expected to attend and which plan to send representatives instead?
And our NTD reporter is on the ground outside the Capital One Arena to bring you the latest in the day's events, so keep it right here.
There's a whirlwind of emotion and activity going on in this painting. And this chaos all around and threat from below. The wolves surrounding her, and they're anything but unmoved. They're moving all the time, and we sense that. But this little girl remains unmoved.
She's in quite a perilous situation, but she's completely strong and serene, and she's actually meditating. It was very, very well liked because no matter what culture or what sort of walk of life you're from, I think people, they see it and they immediately understand what that energy, what that message is, and they're drawn to it because everybody kind of needs a little bit of that in their own life, of, you know, the steadfast calmness and something to hold on to. It's definitely an inner peace in the midst of something very chaotic, and for a lot of people right now, the whole world is very, very chaotic. So I guess that's another reason why so many people are very drawn to this.
don't know why you're so sad. You've got a roof over your head.
You gotta stop with that depression stuff. That's what white people think.
You all right? It just feels like it's coming from everywhere.
Do you want to talk about it?
You can talk to me if you're feeling sad.
Whenever you need to talk, I'm here, okay?
Imagine a coffee that cares for your health. Expertly fermented with a 50 enzyme complex to enhance flavor and remove bitterness. Small batch roasted to a decadent medium dark, resulting in a brew that is gentle on digestion, low acid, and up to 90% less caffeine than regular coffee. Try America's first enzyme fermented coffee today.
Everybody in my house knows how to ride a bike except me. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike? And you didn't. I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
Welcome back, everyone. It is Inauguration Day, and you're looking at the live shot of the White House over in Washington, D.C., where President Biden and First Lady Jill Biden will leave for the last time in the term of their office.
That's right, and they'll also be inviting the Trumps to have a cup of tea as that transition takes place.
That's right, and of course we have the Capitol, where the ceremony will be held the swearing-in ceremony will be held inside because of the freezing temperatures. You can really see it looks chilly.
That's right, it's frozen, and most of this will then, of course, move indoors.
Now, the coldest winter air of the season will blast into Washington, D.C. today, and more than 75% of the U.S. will face freezing temperatures this week. Here's a closer look.
Winds of up to 10 to 20 miles per hour with gusts up to 30 miles per hour are likely. The National Weather Service said wind chills are expected in the single digits all day and falling below zero at night. Temperatures are expected to be in the 20s, which is around 20 degrees below normal. According to the Weather Service, the average afternoon high temperature on Inauguration Day is 45 degrees based on weather data from 1991 to 2020. Most of the United States is facing severe winter weather this week as Arctic air moves downward from Canada. Washington, D.C. is expected to see 1 to 3 inches of snow, with up to 6 inches expected in New York and Boston. At least 964 flights into or out of the U.S. were canceled by noon Sunday, with another 1,700 delayed, according to the flight tracking website FlightAware. The coldest weather of the season to date will be due to a phenomenon called polar vortex. This is an upper-level jet stream that typically circulates around both the North and South poles, but can push cold winds down into the U.S. and Canada when it weakens and expands. The National Weather Service warned that the bitter cold temperatures will bring life-threatening risks of hypothermia and frostbite in some regions. A meteorologist with the National Weather Service projected that as many as 70 million residents will be under some kind of winter storm hazard warning in the coming days. Don Ma, NTD News.
And now we're going to our NTD reporter Chris Bobb, who's live at the Capital One Arena, where Trump supporters are gathering despite the cold. Chris, what's the anticipation like there?
A lot of energy over here, a lot of energy, but cold energy. We had some people right behind me sleeping in sleeping bags, keeping warm. The people in this section of the crowd got in around 3 a.m. I've spoken to people from Texas, from Georgia, who came out, New Hampshire, right over here, who have come out to see the former president, now to be our new president, 47th President Donald Trump. So a lot of energy, a lot of happy faces around here. That they're in ski masks, but they are smiling.
Thanks for that update, Chris. Stay warm, please.
Thank you.
Now, for the first time in U.S. history, a president-elect will welcome foreign leaders for his inauguration. Here's a list of who's invited, the leaders expected to attend, and those who plan to send representatives instead.
President-elect Trump is officially inviting numerous world leaders for his inauguration. No heads of state have previously made an official visit to the U.S. for the event. Some of the officials planning to attend are Argentina's President Javier Milley, leader of the British Reform Party Nigel Farage, former French presidential candidate Eric Zemmour, Ecuador's President Daniel Noboa, who will pause a re-election campaign to attend, and Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. Meloni kept unexpectedly good relations with Democratic President Biden. She's likely to form a more natural alliance with Trump. Meloni is considered a key liaison between Europe and the U.S. The offices of Ecuadorian President Daniel Noboa and Paraguayan President Santiago Peña have said they were invited to the inauguration and plan to attend. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban and former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro have been invited, but have said they will not attend. Brazil's Supreme Court revoked Bolsonaro's passport amid an investigation into allegedly planning a coup after the 2021 presidential election. Bolsonaro supporters entered government buildings on January 8th, similar to what happened in Washington on January 6th. Bolsonaro's wife is scheduled to travel to the U.S. instead. The former president commented while accompanying her to the airport, saying while Trump invited him, he can't attend because he's facing political persecution.
The goal is to eliminate the right wing in Brazil. I represent the right wing in Brazil. Unfortunately, I could not attend this event in the United States without being convicted.
Two prominent leaders who will send representatives instead of going personally are Chinese leader Xi Jinping. He sent second-in-command Han Zheng instead, who already met up with Elon Musk and Vice President-elect J.D. Vance, and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who's sending the country's External Affairs Minister.
And in addition to world leaders, big tech CEOs all attending the inauguration of President-elect Trump, who will soon have power over their businesses. Here's the story.
Big tech CEOs showering Trump's inauguration with record donations publicly and well before they have to be reported to regulators. The leaders of Meta, Alphabet, Apple, and Amazon donating at least $1 million and attending in person, much at stake for each one. Trump has repeatedly threatened to send Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg to prison. In Trump's book Save America, Trump accuses Zuckerberg of plotting against him during the 2020 election and says he will spend the rest of his life in prison if he does so again. On Truth Social, Trump said election fraudsters will be sent to prison for long periods of time. We already know who you are. Don't do it. Zuckerbucks, be careful. Google CEO Sundar Pichai is dealing with regulators who want to break up Google. Trump has expressed skepticism over a breakup, saying, if you do that, are you going to destroy the company at a Chicago event in October? Apple CEO Tim Cook will be harmed by tariffs. Apple reportedly makes 95% of iPhones and Macs in China, and Trump has threatened tariffs as high as 60%. Jeff Bezos' Amazon has massive contracts with the federal government.
From some of the world's wealthiest individuals to influential global leaders, President-elect Trump's inauguration will see a host of big names in attendance. However, there are also some notable planned absences. So former First Lady Michelle Obama and former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi have said they will not attend. And several other Democratic members of Congress have also decided to skip the event. Meanwhile, former Presidents Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, and George W. Bush will not attend the traditional inaugural lunch, but are expected to be present for the swearing-in ceremony.
And as the presidential power transfer takes place, an often overlooked moment will occur: the handoff of the nuclear football. Despite its name, it's actually not a football, but a highly secure briefcase. It contains the president's authority to launch a nuclear strike at any moment. After President-elect Trump takes the oath, the military aide to President Biden will pass the football to Trump's aide, transferring immense power. The U.S. president holds sole authority to order a nuclear strike without needing approval from Congress or the vice president. If the president orders a nuclear strike, the nuclear football is opened. A command alert is sent to the U.S. Strategic Command and the Joint Chiefs. The president, along with advisors like the defense secretary, reviews attack options, which could range from a single missile to multiple launches.
Coming up, TikTok is back for many American users hours after it shut down. This as the president-elect promised he would sign an executive order to delay the ban on the app. That's when we come back.
Kids love it. Parents trust it.
Obviously.
Obviously.
Explore GJW Plus Kids Series and Gone Campus courses led by expert educators.
This is spectacular.
Children will learn values like respect, responsibility, and knowledge in language, science, and more.
Wow.
All while having fun.
Perfect.
Subscribe today at GJW Plus Kids, where learning meets fun.
Emerald Lagasse here, and I'm so excited to tell you about my French door air fryer 360. Extra large 26-quart capacity. Cook with up to 70% less calories from fat than deep frying. That's a big deal, my friend. 360 degrees of superheated air gives you fast, even cooking. My 10-in-1 French door air fryer 360s grills, air fries, dehydrates, roasts, bakes, broils, proofs, slow cooks, and toasts. This baby does it all. These French doors are a game changer. Look at how easy that is.
Now find out how you can try Emerald Lagasse's French Door Air Fryer 360 with 3 cooking tiers, fetch tool, air frying rack, and drip tray in your home for 30 days for just $14.99. Order now and you'll also get Emerald's Air Fryer Favorites recipe book. And we'll automatically upgrade you to our bonus cooking kit free. Plus find out how you can get free shipping. This offer will not last, so call or click now to order.
You're gonna love it, I guarantee it.
Whispered across generations, a hidden secret unveils the essence of longevity and vitality, a timeless legend regarding energy and wonder. Rooted in ancient health wisdom, we proudly introduce Pure Tang Black Ginseng, a 100% natural organic energy drink made from premium 6-year-old Korean ginseng. It takes 2,260 days and nights from seed to growth, undergoing a meticulous 9-step process of steaming and drying. Black ginseng reaches its full potency, enriched with ginsenoside RG3 and enhanced absorption efficiency. No sugar, no caffeine, no artificial ingredients. Experience the pure, natural power of Pure Tang Black Ginseng. Nourish your body, strengthen your immunity, and boost your energy. To order Pure Tang Black Ginseng, please visit puretang.com.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
And welcome back. What we're looking at now is the sunrise over the Capitol in Washington, D.C. It's cold, there's snow, and most of these events are going to be taking place indoors today.
That's right. Although this is also the shot that we will see later when we're obviously waiting for the procession to the Capitol, where the vice president and the vice president-elect and the president-elect will be accompanied to their ceremonies. Now, most Americans are probably familiar with the swearing-in ceremony of the president, followed by the presidential parade.
But there's a whole host of events throughout the day for the new president and the vice president and their families.
President-elect Trump will start off the day with a service at St. John's Church, followed by tea at the White House with outgoing President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden.
The two presidents will then travel to the Capitol Rotunda, where the incoming vice president and president will officially be sworn into office.
The new president and vice president will then attend a luncheon at the Capitol, followed by the presidential parade inside the Capital One Arena.
President Trump is expected to head to the Oval Office to begin signing executive orders.
And the president is expected to attend 3 balls this evening, starting with the Commander-in-Chief Ball, followed by the Liberty Ball, and then ending the night with the Starlight Ball. Now, music adds to the spectacle of a presidential inauguration. Some big names will be taking the stage at President-elect Trump's inauguration today. Country music star Carrie Underwood will sing America the Beautiful before Trump takes the oath. She will be accompanied by the Armed Forces Chorus and the U.S. Naval Academy Glee Club. The honor of singing the national anthem will go to opera singer Christopher Macchio. Macchio has been a staple at Trump events for over a decade, well before Trump's first bid to run for office. Singer-songwriter Lee Greenwood will also have a spot. Anyone who followed the Trump campaign will be familiar with his God Bless the USA, which played every time Trump took the stage on the trail. And yesterday, other musicians took part in a celebration reminiscent of Trump's campaign rallies. The Village People performed their 1978 hit YMCA as Trump did his now famous dance.
As the nation prepares for President-elect Donald Trump to take the oath of office, security has reached unprecedented levels around the U.S. Capitol. And with the swearing-in ceremony being held indoors, some visitors are disappointed, yet understanding. NTD's Jason Perry has the story.
Approximately 25,000 law enforcement personnel are set to provide security for the inauguration of the 47th President of the United States, Donald Trump. A record 30 miles of 7-foot fencing has been put up around the Capitol and the National Mall. And for the first time since Ronald Reagan, the swearing-in ceremony is taking place indoors inside the Rotunda of the Capitol building.
The Founding Fathers intended the presidential role as a role that would be one with the people. So the president could walk out and be amongst the people in the streets. And now you see the tightening of security. And I mean, you're very lucky if you get within, 100 feet of him. So, it's necessary now, but it is telling.
And this couple came all the way from Texas, thinking the inauguration would be held outdoors.
So we're very disappointed that we're not going to be a part of that, but we understand based upon the weather issues that we're experiencing, not to mention the security concerns that everyone has.
But still, hundreds of thousands of people are expected to show up for the event. The District of Columbia National Guard is expected to deploy about 7,800 troops for perimeter security, which includes traffic control and patrolling metro stations. Jason Perry, NTD News.
President-elect Donald Trump is expected to sign nearly 100 executive orders on his first day in office, aiming to reverse numerous Biden-era policies. NTD's Daniel Monahan outlines key areas where significant action is expected.
Trump's incoming Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy, Stephen Miller, says immigration will be a central focus. Planned actions include declaring a national emergency at the border to access Defense Department funding, reinstating the Remain in Mexico policy, and designating certain drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations.
By the time the sun sets tomorrow evening, the invasion of our borders will have come to a halt.
The president has pledged to restore a merit-based system in America.
But we're going to stop the destructive and divisive diversity, equity, and inclusion mandates all across the government and private sector.
On energy, Trump is expected to declare a national emergency to boost domestic production, targeting permitting rules and federal lands used for energy development. He also vowed to repeal what he described as radical executive orders from the Biden administration within hours of taking the oath of office.
Oh, you're going to have a lot of fun watching television tomorrow.
Trump also promised to unlock some of the nation's secrets, vowing to publish the remaining records relating to the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, his brother Robert Kennedy, as well as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
And other topics of great public interest. It's all going to be released, Uncle Sam.
On defense, the president pledged to direct the construction of an Iron Dome missile defense shield.
And we will get wokeness the hell out of our military immediately and make it like it used to be.
Other areas of action include cutting funding for electric vehicles and renewable energy. Trump has also promised swift measures to protect women's sports, including potential bans on federal support for transgender policies in schools. He has vowed to enforce a two-gender policy through executive orders. On tariffs, the president has also pledged to sign an executive order imposing a 25% fee on imports from Mexico and Canada and increasing duties on Chinese goods by 10%. On January 6 pardons, Trump has said he would prioritize pardoning or commuting sentences for supporters involved in the Capitol breach. The president also plans to define the role and authority of the newly created Department of Government Efficiency, which will be led by Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. With bold plans spanning immigration, energy, and federal reforms, Trump is poised for a high-impact start to his second term. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
TikTok is back online hours after President-elect Trump promised to issue an executive order on day one to delay the nationwide ban. Here's Trump speaking at his victory rally yesterday. Take a look.
And as of today, TikTok is back.
TikTok service abruptly went offline on Saturday night. That's because its parent company, the Beijing-based ByteDance, failed to sell its U.S. operation by January 19th, which was yesterday. According to a federal law signed by President Biden, the app had no choice but to face a nationwide ban. President-elect Trump said yesterday that he asked tech companies not to let TikTok stay dark, adding he would strike a deal with the company to address the national security concerns surrounding the app.
And frankly, we have no choice. We have to save a lot of jobs. We don't want to give our business to China. We don't want to give our business to other people.
TikTok has over 170 million users in the U.S. The app faces criticism for its ties to the Chinese Communist Party. Lawmakers said the app could serve as a Trojan horse for China to harvest American users' data and influence American children with negative content. At the Sunday rally, Trump promised transferring TikTok's ownership to a joint venture.
If you do approve, they're worth like $1 trillion. They're worth some crazy number. So I said, I'll approve, but let the United States of America own 50% of TikTok. I'm approving on behalf of the United States. So they'll have a partner, the United States, and they'll have a lot of bidders, and the United States will do what we call a joint venture. And there's no risk. We're not putting up any money. All we're doing is giving them the approval, without which they don't have anything. So I don't know. It sounds like that works. What do you think? Good? I think so.
Trump's support for TikTok is a reversal from 2020 when he tried to block the app in the U.S. Now he is facing mixed responses for his decision to keep the app. Senator Tom Cotton from Arkansas and former ambassador to Japan, Rahm Emanuel, say they oppose Trump's decision. However, the House Select Committee on the CCP said the president-elect is the right man to create a safer TikTok that's not controlled by a dangerous foreign adversary.
The president-elect and his wife are getting in on the crypto boom. Donald and Melania Trump announced the launch of their new cryptocurrencies this weekend ahead of the presidential inauguration. Trump unveiled his new meme token on Truth Social Friday, named after himself. The Trump coin rose to an all-time high of just over $76 yesterday, before finishing at around $60. Melania Trump later announced her own coin in a post on X. The website Crypto Briefing said Melania's coin reached a $10 billion valuation within 3 hours of its launch. Both coins were launched on the Solana blockchain and are not meant to be used as financial instruments or investments. Instead, the website for Melania Trump's coin said it is meant for collecting and entertainment purposes only. After the break, President Joe Biden spent his final full day as president yesterday in South Carolina. We have more on what he did on his last day in office. Stay tuned.
Life's daily battles are not meant to be fought alone.
We're not powerless, so long as we don't lose sight of what's important.
Don't be afraid to seize that moment to talk to your friends.
Cloud, you okay?
Because checking in on a friend can create a safe space.
The first step on our new journey. You coming?
Reach out to a friend about their mental health. Seize the awkward. It's totally worth it.
I don't remember how it started. Our back and forth. Victory. Fumble. Repeat. It always came back.
Dad!
Okay, here we go, throw it!
Yeah.
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Nice.
Every day, thousands of kids start vaping. And I can't let this happen to my kid. Of course, it's awkward to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping. Hey, bestie, how's sketches, vaping? It's hard to get their attention. Ready? Go. Yes, look at that. You didn't turn yours over. So if you want to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping, you have to get it trending. Right, backpack kid?
Let's do it.
First, invite your kid to do the vape talk. Let's try this. All right.
Why is he here?
Yeah, I gotta get it trending, honey.
Come on.
To the left. To the right. Let's go.
Oh, honey, can we talk?
Yeah, what's up?
I see a lot of your friends vaping.
Visit talkaboutvaping.org for tips on when and how to have the vape talk.
Ethan was shot in the head in his best friend's house with an unsecured gun. The father, the gun owner, he stored his 3 guns and bullets in a shoebox. That has to be the most horrific experience that a human could ever have.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Inauguration Day, and you're looking at the live shot at the White House over in Washington, D.C., and we will wait and see when President-elect Trump will come in to have tea with President Biden at the White House. All that will be happening today. But first, President Joe Biden spent his final full day as president yesterday in South Carolina.
That's right. He urged Americans to keep their faith and reflected on the influence of the state and the civil rights movement on his career.
After all these years working alongside you, I have not seen the righteous forsaken. I love you all. I mean it from the bottom of my heart. My family owes you. We owe you. The nation owes you. May God keep the faith, and may God bless the souls of sacred place. God bless America.
Biden delivered a final farewell from a state that holds special meaning for him. His victory in South Carolina's 2020 Democratic primary helped him achieve his dream to be elected president. Biden spoke to the congregation of Royal Missionary Baptist Church about why he entered public service.
He said Robert F. Kennedy and Martin Luther King Jr. were political heroes the day before the federal holiday honoring King. Biden later toured the International African American Museum in Charleston. It was built on a waterfront site where tens of thousands of enslaved Africans were brought to the U.S. from the late 1760s through 1808.
On his final full day in office, President Biden issued several pardons. He posthumously pardoned Marcus Garvey, the influential Black nationalist who inspired figures like Malcolm X. Garvey was convicted of mail fraud in the 1920s and deported to Jamaica.
Biden also pardoned Virginia lawmaker Don Scott, immigrant rights advocate Ravi Ragber, and drug reform activist Kemba Smith-Pradia. These actions highlight Biden's final push for clemency before his term ends.
And turning now to Southern California and the devastating wildfires, there's more potentially bad news for the area.
That's right. Even as firefighters battle blazes around Los Angeles, the weather threatens to bring further trouble.
The National Weather Service has issued warnings for LA and Ventura counties from this afternoon through Tuesday due to low humidity and the intense Santa Ana winds. Forecasters also warned for critical fire weather all the way to San Diego. Residents are being urged to prepare for evacuation.
Meanwhile, California Governor Gavin Newsom on Saturday announced a grace period for bank mortgage loans for residents affected by the fires. The state's government said it had 90-day commitments from major banks, including Wells Fargo, Citibank, JP Morgan Chase, U.S. Bank, and Bank of America.
And President-elect Trump says he will visit the areas ravaged by the Los Angeles wildfires this Friday.
Yes, Trump's comments yesterday came ahead of his rally in Washington. Governor Newsom last week invited Trump to visit the state.
Now, how would you rate President Biden's performance in the in the last 4 years. And are you hopeful or skeptical about a second Trump presidency? NTD Sam Wong was out on the National Mall to hear from the people.
How would you rate President Biden's performance?
I give it a solid 8. We had like the strongest economy, the highest stock markets in history. So I think a lot of it's just depends on which way you're looking at through the prism.
Very poor. Basically, they started from Afghanistan all the way down to inflation, and they're saying, oh, the Green New Deal.
I was pleased. He didn't get everything done he wanted to, but he accomplished a lot.
We're both veterans, and this last 4 years has not been what we feel like we fought for.
I just feel bad for his legacy because he did so much good in the past. You know, he's a great guy, great president. You know, I voted for him, so it's kind of sad to see how it's going down now towards the end of his term.
What do you think about a second Trump presidency? Are you hopeful? Are you optimistic? Are you skeptical?
Oh, I'm very hopeful. I think he'll do a great job, and I think he'll bring this country back to greatness.
I'm always hopeful when any president enters a new administration.
Very optimistic and hopeful. I mean, one is basically the border is a big deal. Basically, two is getting some of the bureaucracy done. I mean, with Elon Musk and Vivek and stuff and everything going ahead.
I'm just holding on like a roller coaster, and hopefully the 4 years go by quick.
I just hope he does the right thing, especially since USA has such a strong influence in the world.
What do you hope to see done under the Trump administration in his first 100 days in office?
Well, I think the biggest thing is basically, I mean, with all the stuff that's happened and everything with the illegals and stuff, it's like, hey, close the border.
Tries to find peace between the wars overseas, between the Israel-Palestine one as well as the Ukraine.
I just hope maybe we get, the Palestine deal goes through and sticks with it. And I hope he figures out a different way than mass deportation.
Hopefully border security and negotiate a lot better trade deals for other countries and stop letting them take advantage of us, and hopefully taking back the Panama Canal and giving it back to America as it should be.
With the hostage situation we have going on right now, and I feel like the world realizes we have a real leader coming back into office, and I think he's going to show that.
Also just in this morning, President Joe Biden has issued pardons for Dr. Anthony Fauci, General Mark Milley, and members of Congress who served on the January 6th committee. The pardons have come in the final hours of Biden's presidency.
They serve to protect several outspoken critics of President-elect Trump, including former Congresswoman Liz Cheney. Biden wrote in a statement that it was alarming that some public servants have been subjected to threats and intimidation for discharging their duties.
Fauci served as director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease for decades. He has been subject to intense criticism for his handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. Milley served as chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff during Trump's first term and has called Trump a fascist. Biden noted that the pardons did not denote guilt. Now, we will be right back with more coverage of President Donald Trump's Inauguration Day, so stay tuned.
Imagine a coffee that cares for your health. Expertly fermented with a 50 enzyme complex to enhance flavor and remove bitterness. Small batch roasted to a decadent medium dark, resulting in a brew that is gentle on digestion, low acid, and up to 90% less caffeine than regular coffee. Try America's first enzyme fermented coffee today.
Everybody in my house knows how to ride a bike except me. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike and you didn't? I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
Kids love it. Parents trust it.
Obviously.
Explore GJW Plus Kids Series and Ganjiang Campus courses led by expert educators.
This is spectacular.
Children will learn values like respect, responsibility, and knowledge in language, science, and more.
Wow.
All while having fun.
Perfect.
Subscribe today at GJW Plus Kids, where learning meets fun.
Whispered across generations, a hidden secret unveils the essence of longevity and vitality, a timeless legend regarding energy and wonder. Rooted in ancient health wisdom, we proudly introduce Pure Tang Black Ginseng, a 100% natural organic energy drink made from premium 6-year-old Korean ginseng. It takes 2,260 days and nights from seed to growth, undergoing a meticulous 9-step process of steaming and drying. Black ginseng reaches its full potency, enriched with ginsenoside RG3 and enhanced absorption efficiency. No sugar, no caffeine, no artificial ingredients. Experience the pure, natural power of Pure Tang Black Ginseng. Nourish your body, strengthen your immunity, and boost your energy. To order Pure Tang Black Ginseng, please visit puretang.com.
The impact of a meal goes well beyond feeding our bodies. Because when people are fed, futures are nourished. Everyone deserves to live a full life. And with your help, together we can end hunger. Join the movement at feedingamerica.org/actnow.
We remain a young nation, but in the words of Scripture, the time has come to set aside childish things. The time has come to reaffirm our enduring spirit, to choose our better history, to carry forward that precious gift, that noble idea passed on from generation to generation, the God-given promise that all are equal, all are free, and all deserve a chance to pursue their full measure of happiness.
Because today, we are not merely transferring power from one administration to another, or from one party to another, but we are transferring power from Washington, D.C., and giving it back to you, the people. What truly matters is not which party controls our government, but whether our government is controlled by the people. January 20th, 2017 will be remembered as the day the people became the rulers of this nation again. The forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no longer.
We can see each other not as adversaries, but as neighbors. We can treat each other with dignity and respect. We can join forces, stop the shouting, and lower the temperature. For without unity, there is no peace, only bitterness and fury. No progress, only exhausting outrage. No nation, only a state of chaos. This is our historic moment of crisis and challenge, and unity is the path forward. And we must meet this moment as the United States of America. If we do that, I guarantee you we will not fail. We have never, ever, ever, ever failed in America when we've acted together.
Welcome to NTD on this historic Inauguration Day.
Welcome also from me here at today's top stories. Today, Inauguration Day, where President-elect Trump will be sworn into office for his second non-consecutive term, the first in 130 years. We have reporters joining us live at the nation's capital to bring you the details of the day's events.
From a national emergency at the border to revealing JFK assassination records, what the nation can expect from President Trump's Day 1 executive orders.
TikTok is back for many American users hours after it shut down. This as the president-elect promised he would sign an executive order to delay the ban on the app.
Welcome back to NTD's coverage of the historic second inauguration of President Donald Trump. I'm Carrie Dunst.
And I'm Evelyn Lee. Welcome. We're also joined by NTD's Chris Beers, who is live in Washington, D.C., where the main event will be held.
Good morning.
Hey, Evelyn, Carrie. Yes, I'm here in Washington, D.C., getting ready for our panel at 8:30 a.m. It's such a historic day for so many reasons. Donald Trump is the second president ever to serve 2 non-consecutive terms after Grover Cleveland. He survived an assassination attempt in July. He is the first president to ever face criminal charges, and not just 1, but 4 criminal cases, over 90 counts between 2 state and 2, as well as making historic wins with key demographics for Republicans. Just so much to watch today in his inaugural address. His rally last night laid out what we might be able to expect. He's saying there could be lots of executive orders today. We'll definitely keep you posted on that. And again, I'll be joining you later with my panel at 8:30.
Well, thank you so much, Chris. We'll be definitely looking forward to hear from you more. Keep us posted. And in the final hours of his presidency now, President Biden issues preemptive pardons for General Mark Milley, Dr. Fauci, and members of the January 6th committee. The goal is to shield them from potential investigation and prosecution after President-elect Trump takes office later today. Joining us now live is NTD's White House correspondent, Iris Tao. Iris, good morning again. What's the latest?
Good morning to both of you as well. So we're now just 4 hours away from the moment where President-elect Trump will take the oath and takes office as the 47th president of the United States. But the current president now still, and President Biden, in his literally final hours, has issued preemptive pardons for several people, including, for example, former NIH director and who directed the COVID response, Dr. Anthony Fauci, as well as General Mark Milley, who is the former chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, as well as lawmakers who have served on the House Select January 6th committee who've been investigating the January 6th incident. And Biden, in his statement, explains that, quote, "Our nation relies on dedicated, selfless public servants every day. They are the lifeblood of our democracy. Yet alarmingly," he says, "public servants have been subjected to ongoing threats and intimidation for faithfully discharging their duties." And that is his message, that he wants to shield them from potential investigation and potentially criminal prosecution, especially from the incoming Trump administration, where these people have been subject to Trump criticism, especially for their role in the administration previously. And meanwhile, Biden also notes in the statement that, quote, the issuance of these pardons should not be mistaken as an acknowledgement that any individual engaged in any wrongdoing. While Biden is trying to note that and try to tell people that, no, this does not mean that these people have done anything wrong, we know that Biden, meanwhile, has used his power of pardon to a very broad extent. We know that usually presidents do issue pardons and clemencies at the end of their term. That is a customary action, but Biden has expanded it by issuing it not only to those Americans who have been convicted and investigated, but also to Americans, and not only everyday Americans, but now officials who have not even been investigated yet. And these are called preemptive pardons. And Biden actually is setting the presidential records for the most pardons and clemencies are issued as a president as well. Former President Trump and now President-to-be Trump has previously criticized Biden for pardoning some of the prisoners on the death row, saying that it really hurts the families of the victims who were involved in those incidents. And meanwhile, today we do expect President-elect Trump taking office in just 4 hours to roll out a series of executive actions. And also he has signaled that he will pardon January 6 defendants, especially those who have not committed violent crimes. And yesterday at his victory rally at Capital One Arena, he told us that everyone at that arena will be very happy to see what he's going to do to, quote, January 6 hostages. We know that President-elect Trump, after he swears in, And after the whole ceremony inside the Capitol, he will then move on back to the Capital One Arena, where he held a rally yesterday to really greet and celebrate with his supporters who were not able to attend the inauguration ceremony and in person outdoors right there, who was supposed to be out there, but because of the cold temperature, everything is now moved indoors. And most of the people will now gather at Capital One Arena. Long lines already outside waiting to get in for a lot of people. So we do expect to see more action from Trump today, too, about January 6th as well. And now, of course, as we enter the 8 o'clock hour here, we do expect Trump to very soon attend a service at St. John's Church, right across from the White House, very, very close, and where that is also a tradition for all the presidents to be sworn in as well. Back to you.
Got it. Thank you so much, Iris Tao, for staying out there in the cold for us. Appreciate it. Keep us updated. Now, most Americans are probably familiar with the swearing-in ceremony of the president, followed by the presidential parade.
But there's a whole host of events throughout the day for the new president, vice president, and their families.
President-elect Trump will start off the day with a service at St. John's Church, followed by tea at the White House with outgoing President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden.
The two presidents will then travel to the Capitol Rotunda, where the incoming vice president and president will officially be sworn into office.
The new president and vice president will then attend a luncheon at the Capitol, followed by the presidential parade inside the Capital One Arena.
President Trump is expected to head to the Oval Office to begin signing his executive orders.
The president is expected to attend 3 balls this evening, starting with the Liberty Ball, followed by the Commander-in-Chief Ball, and then ending the night with the Starlight Ball.
We're expected to see a bunch of popular artists perform at the balls, including the band Rascal Flatts, Nelly, Jason Aldean, and Gavin DeGraw, amongst many others. And coming up at 9 a.m. today,
a peaceful transfer
bring you
of
the
power
round-the-clock coverage of the second inauguration of Donald Trump. We'll have teams at key locations bringing you into every moment of the historic and peaceful transfer of power, the inaugural parade, and closing it up with this evening's inaugural balls. We'll be with you throughout it all, so keep it right here on NTD News. President-elect Donald Trump is expected to sign nearly 100 executive orders on his first day in office, aiming to reverse numerous Biden-era policies. NTD's Daniel Monahan outlines key areas where significant action is expected.
Trump's incoming Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy, Stephen Miller, says immigration will be a central focus. Planned actions include declaring a national emergency at the border to access Defense Department funding, reinstating the Remain in Mexico policy, and designating certain drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations.
By the time the sun sets tomorrow evening, the invasion of our borders will have come to a halt.
The president has pledged to restore a merit-based system in America.
But we're going to stop the destructive and divisive diversity, equity, and inclusion mandates all across the government and private sector.
On energy, Trump is expected to declare a national emergency to boost domestic production, targeting permitting rules and federal lands used for energy development. He also vowed to repeal what he described as radical executive orders from the Biden administration within hours of taking the oath of office.
Oh, you're going to have a lot of fun watching television tomorrow.
Trump also promised to unlock some of the nation's secrets, vowing to publish the remaining records relating to the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, his brother Robert Kennedy, as well as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
And other topics of great public interest. It's all going to be released, Uncle Sam.
On defense, the president pledged to direct the construction of an Iron Dome missile defense shield.
And we will get wokeness the hell out of our military immediately and make it like it used to be.
Other areas of action include cutting funding for electric vehicles and renewable energy. Trump has also promised swift measures to protect women's sports, including potential bans on federal support for transgender policies in schools. He has vowed to enforce a two-gender policy through executive orders. On tariffs, the president has also pledged to sign an executive order imposing a 25% fee on imports from Mexico and Canada and increasing duties on Chinese goods by 10%. On January 6 pardons, Trump has said he would prioritize pardoning or commuting sentences for supporters involved in the Capitol breach. The president also plans to define the role and authority of the newly created Department of Government Efficiency, which will be led by Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. With bold plans spanning immigration, energy, and federal reforms, Trump is poised for a high-impact start to his second term. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Now, after the break, for the first time in U.S. history, a president-elect will welcome foreign leaders for the inauguration. But first, I see that we're having a live view at the Blair House right now, although it looks like the president-elect and the first lady will be protected from views, but it seems like we're waiting for them to arrive, and it is tradition for the president-elect to spend the nights before inauguration at the Blair House.
That's right. It's the official guest house of the White House, and that's where the president and the first lady will be spending the morning, and then from there they'll take on their agenda for the day and go to the White House for tea with the Bidens.
Discover the ancient secret to vitality and longevity with Puretang Black Ginseng. Crafted from premium 6-year-old Korean ginseng, each root is carefully nurtured for over 2,260 days, undergoing a traditional 9-round handcrafted process of steaming and drying to unlock full potency and absorption. Experience pure, natural energy with Puretang Black Ginseng. Order now at puretang.com. Imagine a coffee that cares for your health. Expertly fermented with a 50-enzyme complex to enhance flavor and remove bitterness. Small batch roasted to a decadent medium dark, resulting in a brew that is gentle on digestion, low acid, and up to 90% less caffeine than regular coffee. Try America's first enzyme fermented coffee today.
There's always a searching process for beauty. You know it when you see it.
Every day, thousands of kids start vaping. So if you want to talk to your kids, you got to get it trending. I was just trying to get your attention.
Could I just ask you?
Visit talkaboutVaping.org for tips on when and how to have the vape talk.
Welcome back, and we have eyes on the live shot of the Blair House, where we are waiting for President-elect Trump to depart to go to the St. John's Episcopal Church. It looks like they're pretty well protected from camera views, but it is the tradition for the president-elect's family to stay at the Blair House before the inauguration, and that's what President-elect Donald Trump has been doing. They arrived in Washington Saturday evening and celebrated with family in the Blair House.
And now we're going to turn to the inside the Capital One Arena, home of the Washington Capitals and Wizards, and today where the inaugural parade is set to take place. NTD's Washington correspondent Jack Bradley is there. Jack, good morning. What can we expect from Capital One today?
Good morning. Well, we're expected to see the parade here in the early afternoon, and that's as thousands of Trump supporters are lining outside, waiting to get in after the parade was moved indoors. Usually it takes place down Pennsylvania Avenue, but today it will be indoors here, and people will be able to watch the inauguration ceremony taking place on the Jumbotron behind me, and Trump is expected to deliver remarks here. There will be marching bands and the traditional forefront music playing, and as well as what's expected is Butler County first responders are expected to make an appearance here, honoring former Fire Chief Corey Comparator, who was shot and killed during an attempted Trump assassination during his rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. Now, these presidential parades, inauguration parades, take place, they reaching all the way back, according to the Inauguration Committee, to President Washington, where supporters cheered him on and followed him from Mount Vernon as he made his way all the way to his inauguration. And this followed to Jefferson, and then eventually in 1809 was made in place and became part of the inauguration ceremony. Now, as last night, Trump held a victory rally here, filling the entire stadium with supporters, and he mentioned the usual, saying that he'll issue mass deportations here on day one. It is now day one, and last night he said that by the time the sun sets today, there will be a border crisis will be much more resolved. Now, as far as he also mentioned pardoning January 6 prisoners and releasing documents related to the assassinations of John F. Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy, and Martin Luther King Jr. So a lot to look forward to today. An exciting day ahead. Back to you.
That's NTD's Washington correspondent Jack Bradley reporting from the warmth of inside the Capital One Arena. Jack, we're looking forward to more reports from you throughout the day. Thank you.
And as the nation prepares for President-elect Donald Trump to take the oath of office, security has reached unprecedented levels around the U.S. Capitol. Approximately 25,000 law enforcement personnel are set to provide security for the inauguration of the 47th President of the United States, Donald Trump. A record 30 miles of 7-foot fencing has been put up around the Capitol and National Mall. Right now, we have eyes on the Blair House, actually, and also security is tight. Now, the District of Columbia National Guard is expected to deploy about 7,800 troops for perimeter security, which includes traffic control and patrolling metro stations. And for the first time in U.S. history, a president-elect will welcome foreign leaders for his inauguration. Here's a list of who's invited, the leaders expected to attend, and those who plan to send representatives instead.
President-elect Trump is officially inviting numerous world leaders for his inauguration. No heads of state have previously made an official visit to the U.S. for the event. Some of the officials planning to attend are Argentina's President Javier Milley, leader of the British Reform Party Nigel Farage, former French presidential candidate Eric Zemmour, Ecuador's President Daniel Noboa, who will pause a re-election campaign to attend, and Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. Meloni kept unexpectedly good relations with Democratic President Biden. She's likely to form a more natural alliance with Trump. Meloni is considered a key liaison between Europe and the U.S. The offices of Ecuadorian President Daniel Noboa and Paraguayan President Santiago Peña have said they were invited to the inauguration and plan to attend. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban and former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro have been invited, but have said they will not attend. Brazil's Supreme Court revoked Bolsonaro's passport amid an investigation into allegedly planning a coup after the 2021 presidential election. Bolsonaro supporters entered government buildings on January 8th, similar to what happened in Washington on January 6th. Bolsonaro's wife is scheduled to travel to the U.S. instead. The former president commented while accompanying her to the airport, saying while Trump invited him, he can't attend because he's facing political persecution.
The goal is to eliminate the right wing in Brazil. I represent the right wing in Brazil. Unfortunately, I could not attend this event in the United States without being convicted.
Two prominent leaders who will send representatives instead of going personally are Chinese leader Xi Jinping. He sent second-in-command Han Zheng instead, who already met up with Elon Musk and Vice President-elect J.D. Vance, and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who's sending the country's External Affairs Minister.
Foreign leaders are gearing up to work with the incoming Trump administration.
Japan hoping to organize a meeting between Trump and Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba as soon as possible.
The Japanese chief cabinet secretary said Japan hoped to partner with the new Trump administration to further strengthen the Japan-U.S. alliance.
Japan, India, and Australia, plus the U.S., have come together to form what's being called the Quad to counter China's growing power. Australian Foreign Minister Penny Wong said the invitation for Quad foreign ministers to attend the inauguration shows Trump's ironclad commitment to security in the Indo-Pacific. And as the presidential power transfer takes place, an often overlooked moment will occur: the handoff of the nuclear football. Despite its name, it's actually not a football, but a highly secure briefcase, which contains the president's authority to launch nuclear strikes at any moment. After President-elect Trump takes the oath, the military aide to President Biden will then pass the football to Trump's aide, transferring immense power. The U.S. president holds sole authority to order a nuclear strike without needing approval from Congress or the vice president. If the president orders a nuclear strike, the nuclear football is opened. A command alert is then sent to the U.S. Strategic Command and the Joint Chiefs. The president, along with advisors like the defense secretary, reviews attack options, which could range from a single missile to multiple launches.
Up next, we head to Washington, D.C. with NTD's Chris Beers as we begin the day's activities during this year's historic inauguration.
What if you could whiten your teeth by simply brushing your teeth? Now you can with Smile Actives, the teeth whitening breakthrough that safely gets your teeth white and keeps them white every day, just by brushing your teeth.
I never thought that whitening my teeth could be so easy. I just put the gel on the brush, the toothpaste on it, brush, and I can see my white teeth.
Simply add Smile Actives to any toothpaste and our patented PolyClean technology activates into a powerful microfoam that penetrates into the enamel surface to safely lift and remove stains.
You need a simple way to whiten your teeth. Without strips, without trays, without going to the dentist. And it was about time that a product was developed that you would be able to do that with just brushing.
And now Smile Actives is even better with new Pro Whitening Gel with 33% greater whitening power, clinically shown to whiten teeth faster, up to 8 shades. 100% of users saw whiter teeth. On food stains, coffee and wine stains, even on veneers, crowns, and dentures.
I eat the blueberries, I drink the coffee, and I know that Smile Actives will keep my teeth white every day.
If you could use something so easy like Smile Actives to take yellow teeth to white teeth, why wouldn't you?
Why spend hundreds of dollars for whitening treatments at the dentist when now you can whiten your teeth with new Smile Actives Pro Whitening Gel every time you brush your teeth? Call or go to smileactives.com and for a limited time get new Pro Whitening Gel for just $24.95. Order in the next 5 minutes and buy one, get one absolutely free for just $24.95. That's 2 for 1 and save 58%. We'll even include free shipping. Get your teeth whiter guaranteed or return it within 60 days for your money back.
I smile every day now.
The difference is literally night and day.
So now I'm always smiling, always choosing, because now my teeth are much whiter.
This offer is not available in stores, so call or click now before the special buy one, get one free offer goes away.
My 15-year-old son, Ethan, and I had a fun and relaxing morning. We returned home, and Ethan walked to his best friend's house an hour later. I heard the ambulance scream by the street, Carrie, my beautiful boy. Ethan was shot in the head in his best friend's house with an unsecured gun. He had zero chance of survival. The father, the gun owner, he stored his 3 guns and bullets in a shoebox.
How do you feel?
That has to be the most horrific experience that a human could ever have.
David, would you give any advice?
First thing you do is not keep your ammunition with your weapons, and that your weapons need to be locked at all times.
And welcome back on this Inauguration Day. Carrie Dunst along with Evelyn Lee here. And what we're looking at now is a live shot of the Blair House, where President-elect Trump and First Lady Melania have spent the evening. We're looking at their motorcade, which will bring them to St. John's Episcopal Church, and then they'll go over to the White House to have tea with the Bidens.
That's right. And we saw them loading up some people and some luggage just now, so it looks like it might happen. And all of this will happen before around 11 a.m., the inaugural ceremonies. So while we wait for some of the presidential activities to begin for the day, we're heading to NTD's Chris Beers.
He's live in D.C. for some more coverage on today's inauguration.
Thank you, Evelyn and Carrie. Yes, the inaugural parade will be held as a rally in Capital One Arena in a few hours, where Trump held his own event just last night. Later today, the 47th president is expected to begin signing executive orders, after which will be 3 inaugural balls where he's set to make remarks. Joining me now at the desk to discuss this historic day is senior policy analyst at the Independent Women's Forum, Carrie Sheffield, and political historian, Professor Jeff Bloodworth. Thank you both so much for joining us today. There's so much to discuss. It's such a historic day. There's so many important things Trump has mentioned in just the past few hours. But before we get into Trump, who is of course the focus of today, I want to talk about the inauguration itself, because that's of course the focus as well. It's Inauguration Day in America. It's once again the peaceful transfer of power between presidents. It's become a bit of a commonplace thing in the world. I mean, democracies around the world model themselves after the United States. But I want to start with you, Jeff, talking about the first peaceful transfer of power in the United States between George Washington and John Adams on March 4th, 1797. What would that have meant to the early American people at the time, when such a peaceful transfer of power was rare?
Look, I mean, it was unprecedented almost in the history of the world, in that you have George Washington, who easily could have made himself monarch, willingly leave the White House. In 1797, he passes it off to John Adams, a Federalist. In 1800, John Adams passed it off to Thomas Jefferson, a Democrat, or Democrat-Republican as they were called at the time. And that was called the Revolution of 1800. And so we take it for granted, but we shouldn't. I mean, the Founding Fathers promised to make the world anew, and the peaceful transfer of power and the normality of that is just one way that America kind of still continues to make the world anew and pays homage to the Founding Fathers.
Yeah, it's remarkable that we're still doing this. I mean, especially now, this year. I mean, the past 4 years were so divisive and so controversial, and especially between Biden and Trump, the insults were so personal between both of them, really. So I want to keep on this theme of the inauguration and talk with you, Carrie, about the present day and what this inauguration this year, 2025, means to America and to the world.
Well, I think it's a moment of unity. I'm comparing and contrasting from 8 years ago in 2016, when Trump took office for the first time. He had not won the popular vote. Flash forward 8 years, he has. You have a lot, I would say, bigger celebrities are endorsing him now. You even had Snoop Dogg show up for one of the inaugural balls to help DJ things. This was a rapper who had made a video depicting him assassinating Trump. And now he is, just a short while later, celebrating him. And so I think you've hit this cultural crusting of people saying it's okay to support Trump. You have the Village people who, performed openly. Carrie Underwood, one of the most popular singers of the entire millennial generation, coming to support, whereas she didn't sing 8 years ago, not interested. And so I think it shows how the legacy media, legacy Hollywood, the old guard of American culture, they're irrelevant right now. And I think, to me, as a conservative, I feel very happy about this because it, going to, I lived in Manhattan for almost 10 years. I went to Harvard up in Boston, very liberal places. I feel liberated in some respects that, I can voice myself, and I live here in the DC area, and I don't have to be afraid of it. And so I think it is this very historic moment where our country, in some ways, it's breathing a sigh of relief, where we don't have to be ashamed of where we came from. We don't have to be ashamed that we want to liberate the values that have guided us for so long.
Yeah, you're talking about that. It makes me think of, I was walking back to my Airbnb last night through the streets of Washington, D.C., around 9 p.m. or 7 p.m., something like that. And I remembered a few years ago, there was a big Trump event here in D.C. And I remember there were just families going back to their hotels, and they got accosted and assaulted and followed by hecklers. I mean, who they were, it's uncertain. I think they were wearing black. And I just remember thinking about that and feeling very different. I felt safe despite that memory. It didn't feel like the same kind of divisiveness.
Yeah, I felt the same way too. 4 years ago, I was a White House reporter for the last year of the Trump administration for just the news.com for John Solomon. And I will never forget the night I felt physically unsafe. It was when Trump was having the convention at the White House for the RNC. And there were rioters, there were people, it was a scary time. And that was the night that Rand Paul got threatened physically as well by some of these Antifa type people, BLM type people, terrorists, anarchists who want to destroy and fundamentally hate what America stands for. I don't see them here. Thank God. I feel like I said, we've hit this cultural moment where we don't have to be afraid anymore.
And Jeff, how are you seeing this moment compared to 2017? It was so contentious. There were riots throughout DC, people bashing windows, breaking the windows in cars and in stores.
Well, Donald Trump didn't expect to win it in 2016, and I think there was a kind of a shock to the system. And I think and our other panelist is correct in talking about the legacy institutions of America tried to almost reject Donald Trump like you do an organ transplant. And by the time we get to 2025, love or hate Donald Trump, this Trump administration is seen as legitimate in large swaths of America in a way that it wasn't in 2017. And I'm interested in seeing how that legitimacy from Snoop Dogg, how much that matters in the way that the Trump administration will kind of behave and attempt to govern, especially its style and its manner in 2025. I'm not predicting that this is the pivot where Trump is sort of normalized by the Oval Office, but I think it might be perhaps a different tone because of the way that there isn't this reaction to the Trump administration.
Yeah, it is very different, but he won all the swing states and he made gains with all these different demographics and across the country and counties across the country. But it still feels hesitant. He didn't win more than 50% of the vote. It was something like 49%, and everyone's watching. What is this guy about to do? He's talking about issuing executive orders. We're hearing reports about potentially hundreds on day one. But I want to get into the executive orders. But first, I want to touch on what we're seeing on screen. There's the Blair House where Trump stayed last night. Presidents have been staying in this house for hundreds of years, I think, over 100 years. Jeff, maybe you can speak to that.
I know Harry Truman, I believe, was the first president to stay at the Blair House, but maybe it was decades before that, but it's most certainly historic.
Sure, yeah. And Trump is about to leave the Blair House and go to St. John's Episcopal, where he'll attend church service there. Presidents have been going to this church since the fourth president, James Madison. And that speaks to the continuity of the presence of faith in the American experience. I mean, every president going to this church, no atheist presidents. The country was founded by people fleeing religious persecution in Europe. So I'm wondering, Carrie, can you talk a bit about the role that faith plays in Trump's grassroots movement that won him this election and in the 2016 election?
Absolutely. Well, this church in particular is Episcopalian. That's what I'm baptized as. That church, you'll remember in 2020, was where he stood out in front carrying a Bible because this church had been burned by some BLM rioters in the wake of the George Floyd murder.
That's right.
And the level of vitriol and violence, you're talking about billions of dollars of property damage in the wake of that killing in predominantly black neighborhoods. Trump was trying to say, if you look at the founding members of BLM, a lot of the rhetoric, and even when I would walk around outside the BLM, they had an encampment right in front of this church. There were anarchy signs, like literal graffiti for anarchists and also for Wiccans and for people who a lot of, I believe, demonic presence. And for him to stand up there with the Bible, the legacy media attacked him. But people who supported him understood why he was doing that, because he was saying, we will not allow this church to be burned and desecrated without repercussion. And so it was a very dramatic moment. And I think this the contrast of that moment he's going back to that church after such a historic moment back then in a time of peace. I think it really speaks to his power and his ability to channel the faith leaders in our country. So I used to work for Paula White, who is his pastor. I worked for her at America First Policy Institute. So I worked very closely with a lot of the faith leaders that will be involved in the inauguration today. And so I'm very familiar with how Paula White in some ways helped to shape and mold the president's view on faith. And specifically, it's a very Bible-based view. So one of the projects that I worked on with Paula is, Pastor Paula, is called the Biblical Foundations Project. And what it was is that we looked at the pillars of policy and how the Bible it's perfectly underpinning the principles that guide the America First movement. Whether that's talking about freedom of religion, as you mentioned earlier, that our country's founded on that, embracing life, being pro-life, just being fiscally responsible. I mean, the Bible talks about he who does not work shall not eat. So having personal responsibility, but also that the labor is worthy of his hire. So embracing capitalism, embracing the ability to retain your own wages as a worker. So the Judeo-Christian values are undeniably the force behind America's greatness, and President Trump recognizes that. And when he says "Make America Great Again," he's saying, in many respects, "Make America faithful again."
Yeah, and he's tapped into this energy in this country, and this grassroots movement. People kind of coming up that may not have voted in the past, that may not have been political in the past, or may have been Democrat, and kind of rallying around him. And of course, that grassroots movement came together, sort of coalescing last night at Capital One Arena here in Washington, D.C. For a victory rally, his last rally as former president. So, I want to just get into what he was talking a little bit about and what it says about what he might talk about today. He says he's really leaning into his victory, and he's saying there could be lots of executive orders touching on the border, energy production, TikTok. So, Jeff, I'm curious, what do you think we can expect from Trump's inaugural address today at noon?
Oh, I think it's going to be vigorous, robust. I think he's going to lay out his agenda for the next 4 years.
Oh, sorry to interrupt you, Jeff. We have J.D. Vance here, Vice President-elect, walking into St. John's Episcopal there. It looks like
Speaking of a former atheist, J.D. Vance is a former atheist.
Wow.
And he converted. He had a very turbulent childhood and then became atheist, I think, in some respects as a reaction to that. And then he became a Catholic recently. I think he was Protestant before that. But yeah, he's certainly had a spiritual journey.
Wow, fascinating. Yeah, and I guess we should be seeing the president-elect entering the St. John's Episcopal just shortly here. You can see some of the maybe security people keeping an eye out for that. But and that was J.D. Vance, who just went in again. So let's continue with our conversation, Jeff. I'm really curious about what you're thinking we could expect from today's address.
Well, I think if you think about George W. Bush in 2000, who lost the popular vote, and Donald Trump, as you were saying, didn't win a majority of the vote, but in both cases, you're the president. And so even without a majority of the vote, I think Donald Trump is going to, his speech and his vision is going to be like Ronald Reagan after 1984. I mean, this is totally Donald Trump. He's going to govern as if he won in a landslide. And that's been the kind of the interesting thing in this interregnum between the November election and the inauguration, is that it almost feels as if he did win in a Reagan-type sweep, when in fact, 200,000 votes separated Kamala Harris from winning the blue wall and being president. So he's going to outline a very bold vision. I'm not wholly surprised by all the executive orders. I think he's going to try to be the opposite of Joe Biden, who was very much in the background, and Donald Trump is going to be in the foreground. And this is the America First, or the MAGA movement, kind of all grown up. It has a real policy vision, and they know how to operate the levers of power, unlike 2017.
Yeah, and Carrie, I want to look at this, what Trump said yesterday at the rally. He said, you're going to see something tomorrow. You're going to see executive orders that are going to make you extremely happy. Lots of them. I'm wondering, what are you expecting in terms of executive orders? Jeff talked about the address. What does lots of them mean?
Well, as Jeff said, I agree with him that this administration has grown up now. It knows what it wants. So one of the things, again, when I was working at America First Policy Institute, which has basically created the shadow cabinet for 4 years prior to now, they held a big dinner 2 nights ago where they had that photo that we've seen around with all the new cabinet members. That was all organized by Brooke Rollins, who was the former domestic policy chief under Trump for the first administration. So for the last 4 years with America First Policy Institute, where I was working, they were creating these executive orders have been prepared for the last 4 years by the America First Policy Institute.
Carrie, it looks like, Carrie, it looks like we have President-elect Donald Trump exiting the motorcade, pumping his fist, preparing to enter the St. John's Episcopal Church, the Church of the Presidents, as it's called. First Lady, future First Lady, Melania Trump, side by side with her husband, shaking hands with one of the pastors there. It's a cold day. That's why they moved the inauguration indoors, as well as the parade, which has turned into a rally at Capital One Arena later this afternoon. And yeah, there goes President-elect Trump, soon to be the 47th president, entering St. John's Episcopal Church for a church service that's been a tradition for many, many years in American history. Before the president-elect meets with the current president to go have tea. And that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, the peaceful transfer of power. And again, they were these two candidates, or former candidates, Trump and Biden, were just slinging insults at each other. And then Biden drops out of the race. Of course, Kamala Harris takes the helm of that campaign, loses to Trump, and then you see Trump at the, with Biden sitting there in front of a fire. They're smiling, passing the baton.
That's what Joe Rogan, he said, you can't tell me that Biden didn't vote for Trump. He said he's grinning like a Cheshire cat because he's glad that Trump brought vengeance because he felt so upset about being replaced so quickly by Kamala Harris without arguably without a democratic process. And they put in such a weak candidate. She'd never won a single primary vote at a national level. So it was, I think, strategically a huge blunder. But, the fact that Biden was so gracious about it, I think Whether he voted for Trump or not, we'll never know. Maybe someday he'll let it slip.
Maybe.
But to what you were asking me earlier, though, about the executive orders, we do know that there are going to be things related to energy policy, things around DEI, limiting that in the federal government, things around making sure on the immigration front. I mean, he'd mentioned some of the raids or the deportations. So it's going to be around a whole wide portfolio.
Yeah, and so much more. He's talked about releasing January 6th protesters or prisoners, as well as issuing an order about TikTok extending the potential ban. But for now, we're going to send it back to Carrie and Evelyn there in New York. So Carrie, the other Carrie, Carrie Sheffield, and Jeff Bloodworth, thank you both so much for your time and your insight today.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, Carrie and Evelyn.
Yes, thank you so much for those fascinating insights. Coming up, we follow President-elect Trump as he begins the day's activities and what to look out for as the events unfold with NTD's Kevin Hogan at the Inaugural Hub.
Kids love it. Parents trust it.
Obviously.
Explore GJW Plus Kids Series and Gyeong Campus courses led by expert educators.
This is spectacular.
Children will learn values like respect, responsibility, and knowledge in language, science, and more.
Wow.
All while having fun.
Perfect.
Subscribe today at GJW Plus Kids, where learning meets fun.
Discover the ancient secret to vitality and longevity with Puretang Black Ginseng. Crafted from premium 6-year-old Korean ginseng, each root is carefully nurtured for over 2,260 days, undergoing a traditional 9-round handcrafted process of steaming and drying to unlock full potency and absorption. Experience pure, natural energy with Puretang Black Ginseng. Order now at puretang.com.
23 سال 16 سال عمري ما هفت
اما داعش کردیان برانبر خوشکو دایکانی ازدی ما کاری که دور لهمو چمک دموکراسی و موافقانی مرو و انسانیت او بارودوخی که است های به تایبت لایرا خوشکوریا بشه که دگرت و با و حالانه که اداره اوباما کرد
ریم بو او هفت روز بو و داعش از کرد
تامبوم كرا قوتينيز قريا بما متشكر بهار بيدن نبو باوان رحم نبو
ودمنا سؤالان من خادران نزل باوان نفستم بس نا مانا قو بس ناش بيجوش باش.
They would literally be auctioned in front of soldiers, and then the soldiers begin to bid.
زارود وان همو جيبرم تي حملي زارود الدم واسسي وان همو جيبرم
وحشیگریه که توا عیاره ظلمی که یک جار زور گوره لما افرطانه کرده و تعدایی که زور زوریان لیده کرده اما نه روزانه دست فروشیده کرده. اليوم التوزيع كلنا نصيب. Imagine being a child, having a child mentality and these evil people come and wheel you away from the only safety you've ever known.
Welcome back. We have eyes live on the St. John's Episcopal Church, where President-elect Trump and First Lady Melania, as well as Vice President-elect, they all walked in earlier today. And it will be one of the most calmest and most private events today during this busy day, just because there is no cameras or videos allowed inside, hence why we have our eyes on the outside. It is quite a small church, but it will be nonetheless packed.
That's right. We just saw moments ago President-elect Trump, Melania, and Barron, who all rode together in the same car, enter the church. And after that, they'll be going to the Bidens for tea. The main event, of course, will be held in just a few hours in the Rotunda of the Capitol building instead of outside.
And for more about today's schedule, we're joined live by Kevin Hogan at the Inaugural Hub. Kevin, hi. Trump's church services expect to start very soon. What's next on Trump's schedule?
Yes, so starting with tradition, kicking off the day at St. John's Episcopal Church here in Washington. This is a very, very important tradition. 88 years, pardon me, if we can get that to go back a little bit. We'll just let this run. This is going to go to the church. 88-year tradition. Half of the presidents since 1933 have visited this particular church. Some very famous presidents, as well as Franklin Delano Roosevelt and Ronald Reagan, have visited this as well. So it's a very, very important moment here in time after having come from the Blair House, the president's guest house, where the Emperor of Japan himself has stayed. So this is where President-elect Trump is right now, and after that, he's going to move over to the White House for tea with the Bidens, and this is definitely a very important transfer of power ritual. It's said to be one of the most enduring, and this is just right across the way, across Lafayette Square from the church. So here we're looking at a shot of the White House. It's not clear exactly where the Bidens and the Trumps will have their tea, but President Biden and First Lady Jill Biden will greet the Trumps right here at the North Portico, and then it's possible that the Blue Room will be one of the spots where they have tea, which is right here at the South Portico, and this is where the Bushes and the Obamas had tea in 2009. So following that, they'll ride together, the Bidens and the Trumps, to the U.S. Capitol for the swearing-in ceremony, and at that time, that will be, let's see if we can get this. Okay, here we go. Going to the Capitol really quick here. Now, this is going to be an indoor ceremony, as we mentioned, due to that very cold weather. Now, if under normal circumstances, you would see this whole area packed with people. You'd have a VIP viewing stand here with seated seats, and then also standing room permitted along these areas, and just packed all the way down through the National Mall to the Washington Monument. 250,000 people were expected at this event. They may be at the Capital One Arena to see the Trump's speech on those screens that they have. But the president usually gives his remarks here after taking the oath of office on the steps. But this time it will be indoors, and Trump will take the oath of office inside the Capitol Rotunda, and that'll be the Chief Justice John Roberts administering that oath of office. Following that, we're going to jump over here to the east front of the U.S. Capitol, and we're going to see the departure ceremony. So this is where the vice president will escort the outgoing vice president and her spouse, as well as the president escorting the outgoing president right here on the east steps of the Capitol. And the Bidens will depart from this point right here on Marine One helicopter, and he's going to go to Joint Base Andrews at that point. And we're going to get a wide shot of this so you can see the relative locations of the two. It's about 10 miles by air to Joint Base Andrews. That's what you're seeing right here. So that's where Biden's going to head on Marine One. It's unclear exactly where President Biden is going to go after he departs from Washington. It could be his home in Delaware. That's one of the destinations that we're thinking, but it's unclear at this particular moment. But then we're going to go back to the U.S. Capitol, because at this point, after the departure ceremony, you might see, for example, a 21-gun salute. It's the highest honor for the president now that he's just taken office. It could be in some areas like this or around the Capitol complex. You might see the artilleries launching their shells there to honor the president. Now, following this, we're going to have the signing room ceremony. This is going to be just off the Senate quarters here on the north side of the Capitol. I mean, this goes back to 1981 when Reagan started this tradition. It could include Trump taking his first official acts as president, signing those memorandums, maybe even nominations and executive orders. I know he has a lot lined up for that. And then following that, there will be the Congressional Luncheon, which will be held at Statuary Hall just off the Capitol Rotunda here. And this dates back to 1897 with President McKinley starting this tradition. So again, a lot of traditions, a lot of rituals on this day, and that'll be held by the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies. After that, President Trump will come out of the east steps of the Capitol and he will review the troops. Right here, you might see some ceremonial regiments, maybe even hear Yankee Doodle Dandy from some of those colonial dressed troops there, as well as some more modern troops. And then after that, we're going to go to the parade, which will be indoors this year at the Capital One Arena. And so Trump will reunite with his supporters there. We may hear some remarks from him as well. And at this time, I mean, that's 22 degrees out. I mean, that's a brutal wind chill. So they've definitely wanted to move that indoors, and that's managed by the Joint Task Force National Campaign Region. They're going to have to figure out how they're going to get this parade indoors. And then after that, President Trump will then go to the White House for more signing of executive orders, memorandums, and so forth. And after that, then it's party time. The president will begin the first of his 3 inaugural balls, and that will be at the Walter E. Washington Convention Center that you see right here. That's the Commander-in-Chief Ball, which will be first, honoring and reuniting with the American service members. Of course, the Commander-in-Chief is the head of the U.S. military. And then following that will be the Liberty Inaugural Ball, in which Trump supporters will be recognized. And we'll hear some more remarks from President Trump at that point. And then afterwards, they're going to the D.C. train station. May sound like an unconventional place for a ball, but actually it is a very nice venue, really beautiful inside of there. And that is at Union Station, where the Starlight Ball will be held to honor those who have contributed quite a lot to President Trump's campaign. And we'll also hear some more remarks from the president at that time. So that's a wrap up of the day's events. Back to you.
That's NTD's Kevin Hogan with updates and illustrations from the Inaugural Hub. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you so much also for me. And just before we leave it at this here, let's take a quick look. And
there we have St. John's Episcopal Church, where we know the president and the vice president and their families are observing a service before Trump heads over, as Kevin just shared with us, to have tea with the Bidens.
Supermodel Cindy Crawford doesn't just